Hi, and welcome to another video in the RHCE video series. Today's video is on validate a working configuration using ad hoc Ansible commands. So this one, I've taken it to have two meanings, so I will try to cover both just in the interest of completeness, just to ensure I cover both bases. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is check mode. Essentially, that as far as I'm concerned is basically it checks that your Ansible configuration is correct. So you can use the a check mode on an Ansible command line, and then you can have it just double check your command would actually complete successfully before deploying it into your application. So before running it across the entire environment and making changes, you can run check mode and it just double checks everything looks okay. It's basically just like a simulation, really. So I'll do that one, and there's also a diff mode which I'll cover in a bit. Right. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll use the example from last time. So we've got this HTTPD to HTTPD YAML just to install Apache and check the service status. Nothing too crazy in there. And what I'll do is I'll run that same command. Actually, I've just to double check my inventory. I think I made some changes. Yeah. So I cleaned up my inventory, so it's just the single client, because otherwise we're going to have failures, and I don't really want to have failures in this case. So yeah, that's cool. So we can then, if I do just do a clear to keep it at the top. So run it. So to run the check command, so basically essentially to check whether everything will run successfully, we just run it like this: Ansible playbook -i inventory, the YAML playbook, or the Ansible module -m, or whatever command line. You can run it obviously completely from the command line as an ad hoc command if you wanted to. Yeah, I'm just being it'd be easier just to repeat this than write the entire command into CLI. It gets a bit messy. So -i inventory, the command, we've got to do from the last time, we've got to do ask become pass, and then we've got -- check. So we don't want to do any installation. It's going to ask to become password, and it's just going to run it as a check. So it's going to ask to become password. We pop that in, and we wait. So it's gathered facts okay. It's attempting to install Apache just to see if all the packages are there, and we see a change, so it looks like it's okay. So yep, it would have actually changed the client in two places, which is to install Apache and to check the service status. So how can we prove that this check works? So I had a thought about this earlier, and I think the easiest way to check this is actually to apply a check manually in here. So if I put a check underscore mode and yes in here. So what it will try and do now is it will try and install Apache, but because check mode set to yes, it will actually just check if it can install it, and it won't actually install it. And then this second step will actually fail because there's no Apache on the server. So let's see if that works. So I run the same command as before, but without the check. So I want to actually action this now. And you can see it couldn't actually find the requested service. So if we run that same command again with the -, check, this will complete successfully because it's all of it's in check mode now, so it's overriding the entirety of the checks. The task, sorry. So yeah, cool. So that is a very quick check mode. So another one we can do is what's called diff mode. So what I'll do is let's write a file onto the system, and we use diff mode to check the changes being made. So let me just create a temp file, test.txt, some text, something very original. Cool. So I've got that in my directory here. That's brilliant. So we'll just create an Ansible playbook quickly. We'll call it just diff.yaml. We'll just start with name, diff playbook, hosts, all tasks. Let's start a task. I've got the first task, name, check for file changes via diff. And to do the templates, we use, so we're then going to use Ansible dot built-in dot copy, and that's the module, and we're going to use the source of, I think it was root, oh god, what was the directory name? With, I think it's esc. I'll check that in a minute. And then test.txt, and then test. Let's just do temp and then test.txt. Owner, root, group, root, mode. Let's just set 0644. This is pretty standard. Cool. Okay, so if we set this like that, that should be good. And then we just do an Ansible hyphen playbook. That's inventory diff hyphen check hyphen diff. So we're adding the diff to see the changes made. Cool. So we can see the changes here. So before we didn't have the file, and after we have an additional file added, and if you can actually see what's in the file as well. So you can see that some text has been added. And because we're running it with the check in combo, if we run it again, we're going to see the same result because, again, we're not making any changes to the system. Okay. So if we remove the hyphen check, we will directly make the change, and we'll see the diff output. So we got that change now. If we run it a third time, we should finally see basically no change. There we go. You've got to be a bit careful with diff. As you can see, it printed out exactly what's in the file. So in some cases, if it's a private file, you may want to be a bit careful with diff in the fact that obviously it's going to print out exactly what's in the file. Okay, so to cover off the completeness of this particular section, the other thing I want to do is to use Ansible to verify configurations. So we can obviously go to the systems and actually look at various config. We can have a look in particular config files. We can have a look at system variables, so like how much memory the system has. We can look for particular content of a file. Yeah, you can go pretty detailed. You can even look at checksums of files, all that kind of good stuff. It's a really pretty powerful thing. Obviously, there are some tools that probably do better than this, than Ansible. stuff like chef and whatnot, but it can be a good way to get yourself out of trouble, and sometimes it is pretty straightforward with the Ansible playbooks once you get your head around it, that is. Let's check a file for a particular configs, for particular contents. So I have just literally created that new text file. We've got the contents of it here, so we can test file, isn't it? Yep. So just some text. So we're going to look for some text in that file, and we'll double check that's all correct. So vim, and then we'll just call it contents dot YAML. I don't need really that anymore. Okay, so we call it a name. Contents, content checker. Okay, content checker. We do hosts all. We then, I'll just do an extra line. I prefer it to be a bit like that. Tasks, and then you can do a grep. So name grep for some text, shell grep some text in temp test.txt. Register, we want to then register the result. Yep. And we've got it, we know it's changed when the result is not equal to 0. Failed when false. So let's run this, and then I'll go through the command itself. So to Ansible -playbook -I inventory, and then contents.yaml. I don't think I need anything else on there. Yeah, we don't need a check or a diff. We were good. Okay, so we've got a return of OK. So that means the grep was successful. Okay, cool. So we go in here. So what it's looking for is, so it's doing a run a shell command. Literally just at the command line, it's running this exact command. It's then registering whatever the output of the result of that is into the result, and then we've got looking at the return code of the result, RC return code, and if it's not equal to 0, which means it basically matched, then it's going to have an option of changed, and it's going to, if we just get a false, we're going to completely fail. So if I grep for something that won't match, just put some 1, 2, 3 and save that. If we do the same command now, we now got it changed. So that looks like it's good. So you can see it's a good way to double check something's in a particular command, inside a particular file. Sorry. So you can see the uses of that. Perhaps we need some kind of configuration applied to a long list of systems, and we can quickly gather the list of systems that don't have that config, and we can even later on script that to add the line in the file to add that config in later. So sometimes, yeah, like if you're going to add a config into a file, you may not want to just blanket apply it across all the systems. You may want to carefully check the systems first, which ones definitely don't have that in the config, and then you can fire it out to all the systems. And obviously you can use something like check or diff to double check before you actually apply it. So the final one I want to do is just an example of verifying the configuration of a system to see how much memory it has configured. So it's pretty easy to do. Again, I'm going to use Ansible playbooks because I find they're better in a lot of ways. You can obviously use ad hoc commands if that's something you're interested in doing, and bringing it all into one literal command. But I really don't like using them, where I try to avoid them as much as possible. I find that just writing a playbook is a lot easier and a lot easier to manage as well. So let's go again. Let's go to mem total.yaml, and we'll give it a name. Memory checker. We do the hosts all tasks name check if the memory is at least 800 meg on the system. Okay, and then we're going to assert that. So we're going to check something and assert that literally. And then it's it's a standard Ansible thing. So it's just Ansible memory, mem total, and then it's MB in megabytes, and then we can compare it. So int is greater than 800, and then we just want a fail message, and we could just say memory is low at, and we can get the variables always, so we're just going to get that. So Ansible, oops, okay, it helps if you can spell, mem total MB, close squiggly brackets, and we can put MB next to, so we get it looks sensible, and not greater than 800 MB. Cool, I think that should be it. That's an easy one. Okay, so that's Ansible -playbook -I inventory and mem total. So we've got an all assertions passed, so we didn't get any issue. So let's make it, let's do 8,000. I hate saying 8,000 meg because it's not really a nice round number, but never mind, it's all good. And we'll just rerun this, and now it should fail, and we should get our custom message. Yep. So memory is low at, so we got an actual value there, 1817. So it's not overly highly spec'd, but it's not greater than 8,000 megabytes. So yeah, so that gives us an output there. Well, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of it can be run ad hoc as a request, but the main thing I think is the validating working configuration. So looking at either configuration files is one way I've got this as thing, but also with check mode and check diff mode to make sure the working configuration, as in your configuration of your Ansible files, is correct. So you use the ad hoc command as check mode and diff modes to ensure that what you're actually applying is going to work before you apply it fully to the system. Yeah, as always, I hope this video has been informative. I'll catch you next one. Thank you. Right now, I've just popped up on the screen my TeePublic page. That's for any kind of CSG merch, if that's anything you're interested in. Got my Ko-fi page for any kind donations, if that's something you're interested in. Yep, and also just the details of my Discord server. So that's the best place to ask questions Also, we've got, obviously, you can ask questions in the comments and I'll try and help out where I can. But Discord place is a great place. We've got a bit of a community going there, and you can reach out to myself and also the community, and someone will try and help you. Yeah, it's a great community we're building there. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you at the next video. Cheers.